morning, folks. Today's talk is on polishing a watch crystal. So I've made other videos on how to polish a watch crystal. It's been really challenging over the years in trying to get a watch crystal perfect. I think when I did servicing on that Rolex precision watch a couple of weeks back, I got that crystal in really, really good shape. And it was a vintage crystal, 50 years old, scratched up. I got that thing looking like brand new. So how did I do that? So what I did was I started with low grit sandpaper, and I used a lot of elbow grease. So this is a 400 grit sandpaper. I worked my way up to, and that one 1,000 grit pretty fast, and then I worked to 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 grit sandpaper. So that was the technique I used. A lot of elbow work, a lot of back and forth to start off with on the sandpaper, and then circles when I got to the finer sandpaper. So what I wanted to do was remove enough material so I could get beyond the scratch. So because the scratch is like a little valley, right? So you want to remove the material down to the bottom of that valley, and you've gotten rid of the scratch. So today I'm using a lathe. So I'm going to try a different technique to remove the scratches from a watch. On this particular watch, I've removed a lot of scratches by scraping it back and forth. I'm leaning into it. What I did was I took my crystal and I put it on this side here of this. This is just a watch back remover, and then I leaned into it and ground that thing down as much as I could, and I got rid of a lot of scratches. And in the middle of all this, I thought, why am I doing this? Why can't I just use my lathe and just lean the sandpaper on the lathe and see what happens? So today I'm going to try to do that and finish off this crystal. I got rid of a lot of scratches, but there's still some remaining. So let's clip over to that part of the video and see what we can do here. Here I've got my Sherline Products Incorporated, made in the USA, 3-jaw chuck. Try saying that 3 times. 3-jaw chuck, 3-jaw chuck, 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 chuck. Anyway, so this chuck, I flipped the jaws around on it because it was these were flipped the other way, so that I could use this for small, like 5mm, 20mm, that kind of material sticking out. Flip them around, and what I have here is an old glass pocket watch crystal. So this crystal is from this pocket watch, which I may have shown you before, but this is an old pocket watch. It's an Omega pocket watch, but it's from Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. And this pocket watch is actually kind of nice. The case was a US case. The movement is an Omega movement, very low jeweled, 7-jewel Omega movement. But the watch face was a Canadian jeweler who put this, basically assembled this watch and sold it. So the case had mucho scratchos on it. So lots of scratches on this case. So I attacked this case, as I said before, by putting this case back remover on the inside like that, getting the sandpaper there, and then going back and forth like that until I got rid of a majority of the scratches. But it's still hazy, and there still are a few deep trenches. There's a Mariana Trench right there, I can see that, and there's some other deep trenches in here. So I thought, I was in the middle of pushing this and grinding, and I thought, well, why the hell am I doing that? So I got a lathe, why don't I use it? So I got the 3-jaw chuck happening here, and I flipped these around. I noticed in the chuck there's a small, get my fingers out of the way, there's a really small groove right in the base of this jaw right here, and this fits in nicely. So an angled crystal right at the edge here, the edge fits right in nicely right into that little gap opening, whatever you want to call it. So these are called jobby doohickeys. I got to use that term more often. So then I just by hand, I'm going to tighten this chuck up by hand. That's tighten the chuck up as opposed to up chucking the tighten. Man, my humor this morning is really shitty. So there we go. That's hand tightened. I don't want to put in the levers here to tighten this chuck up a lot, because what it'll do is warp the edges here. So as long as it's holding it, which it is, that's fine, because I don't want to mar the edges or warp the edges. So I've got that. So let's just put that down for a second. And this is my adapter for a 8mm lathe. So I put the adapter in first. And we got that in like that, and then tighten that up like this. So tighten that up. I love sound effects. And now I put the part in first because I think it makes more sense to put the part in first than it is to put it in after. So, and I'm not sure which way yeah, this spins the right way. So I use the lathe itself to tighten itself, which is kind of cool. So there we go. So that will spin like this. So now I want to make sure my fingers are out of the way here. So what I'm going to do is get a block of some sort to be able to rest on that with the sandpaper. Alright, I found a block here. This is an old, well, it's old I guess, but it's an old sanding block here. It's rubber, which you want because you don't want wood on there. It'll leave a mark probably. So in here I just measure the sandpaper on the end. I could make a mark, probably make it a little bit easier, but I know I got to have the sandpaper inside of this block like this, so I can take the sandpaper, pull that back a bit, and get back on you a second here, like that, and just pull that back a bit. Now it's fitting in. You don't want it, you want it just probably a little bit past that block like that, and then that will go around like this. This is a used piece, so this is a piece I had used already, and if I measure that and I look at that, you know what, that'll fit perfectly. So all I need to do is cut the sandpaper. So since I've already got it in the sandpaper cutting position here, I can just make a line here like that. Does that work? I don't know. That, and then remove the sandpaper and then cut it and prepare it into block. Alright, the sandpaper is officially in the block. This is a piece I've used already, so it's still got some dust on it, but let's see if that makes any difference in this particular crystal. Again, this is a glass crystal, not a plastic crystal. I'm not sure if this technique would work well on a plastic crystal because it's a little easier to get the scratches off of plastic than it is off of glass. So all they do is apply the sandpaper here and see what happens. I got to keep the edges away from the block so I don't screw that up. I can speed that up a bit probably. See if this makes a difference. Now in this case I was just rolling my hand around like this, sort of rolling it to see if it's removing stuff. Man, that's pretty smooth. I can still see the little bit of the Mariana's Trench right there, so, but that's doing a very nice job in this crystal. So I'm going to hit it again and see what happens. There you can see the angle here in the sandpaper working that crystal. And it's a pretty darn good job. I can still see a little scratch here. I think this is the world's deepest scratch. There may be nothing I can do about that scratch. It's right on the edge, so if I apply pressure right here, I may be able to get rid of that scratch. Well, that's a lot better. It's almost gone. The scratch is almost gone. Now again, I'm not sure whether I should be using any type of cutting oil or liquid or what? I'll have to get some comments from that. But maybe it works a bit better with cutting oil. I don't know. This is a heck of a lot easier than going back and forth with your hands. Again, always make sure you're wearing safety glasses when you're doing this kind of stuff. I would normally put a mask on, but I don't see a lot of particles flying around here. But if there's a lot of particles being moved, then I would recommend putting a mask on. So I'm not going to try to get down to the bottom of that one. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to switch sandpaper to see if I can get a different grade of sandpaper in here. So let's switch that. So I don't waste too much sandpaper. It's hard to get out of this block here. So what I did is just cut a square this size, and I'm just going to hold on to this with one hand as I work it with the other hand. That should do the same, effectively do the same thing as I did before. So this is 600. As you can see, there's a big 600, thank God. So Gator 600 sandpaper. See what this does. There's the marks from the sandpaper, just so you can make sure this is still somewhat tight. This doesn't fly off on me. And let me have a look at that crystal. It's looking pretty good. That little mark's still there, so that's pretty deep, that one. So let's try to get at it again here with the 600. See what this does. And I could rest that block on the bottom of the lathe here, so it's a lot easier on me. And really I just need to get one side of this thing in motion. As it spins around and hits the sandpaper, so it doesn't matter. Feels pretty smooth. Man, that's looking pretty good. That is pretty good. Even the Mariana's Trench is starting to disappear here, so that'll be my sign that it's completed, right? When that trench disappears. A little bit more action here. This is where you fast forward the video, folks. Line that up, keep my fingers away from the chuck. Have another look at how I'm doing here. Not bad. Mariana Trenches get even smaller. How much glass can I remove, right? And go for it again. This is very exciting. All right, that looks pretty good. The Mariana's Trench is almost gone here, but I don't know whether I can get down to the lower level without moving too much glass. So I'm going to go to a different grade of sandpaper. This is 600. We're going to go to a lower grade now. I'm going to use my previous piece of sandpaper as my template to cut out the new piece, and I'm going to 1200. And I've got my chunk of 1200 here, sandpaper, and I'm going to try to get it even nicer. So the faster I spin, the more smoother it gets, I guess. A lot of friction on the 1200. But as you can see, it's removing material, so that tells you it's working. And it's a new slice, so it should work really well. So let's keep going with this. Just going to go around back and forth a bit and roll it. See if I can get some nice smooth action on that. And then look at what the glass looks like after I'm finished. Look at that glass. Wow, that's nice. That is really good. I can see through it, man. So keep working at it until it's perfect. Flip that around. Keep my fingers out of the way. I like my fingers. So if you don't like your fingers, then you can stick them in the lathe and away you go. My fingers are my friends. When you work the bottom part here, it pulls it this way. When you work the top part, it pushes it the other way. So you're probably better off working the bottom part. That way there's no problem. I'm going to take this out of the lathe in a second and actually have a look at the crystal to see what it looks like. Alright, so let's just remove the crystal from the lathe here. There we go. So that's the crystal there. And I get a piece of a little cloth here, a lint, nice cloth. This one's still a little bit dirty, but and just clean it up a bit and see what it looks like. I'm going to make sure the scratches I'm seeing are not on the inside. They're oh, that's looking really nice. Wow. And I know I have some inconsistencies on the inside, and there's a bit of circular scratching on the other side. So just get that done here, and just look on the inside here and see what I'm looking at. It's not too bad. I don't want to see scratches through the watch and then think I haven't solved the problem, because I can see some stuff on the inside that I'm probably thinking it's on the outside. So, but in general, this is working really well. So I'm going to get at it a little bit longer and see if I can remove even more scratched material. It looks pretty smooth though. There's some deep ones right here that I have never been able to remove. I guess if I use finer grit sandpaper, I would eventually get it, but you know, this is an old watch, so I don't want to remove too much material here. I'll end up with nothing left. But this does work. So it's removing lots of glass, which is smoothing it all out. So I'm going to chuck this up in the lathe again. That's the term used. Chuck it up in the lathe and tighten that. And make sure should probably do it outside of the lathe, but just test that and see if I'm good. Pretty much. I always like to tighten it and then shift it around and then move it around and tighten it again. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to work on this a little bit longer. And now I'm going to switch to 2000 grit sandpaper. Alrighty, here we go. 2000 grit sandpaper. So we only need to go to 2000. I got some leftover polish on this thing. I can see from before. So anyway, this should work really well again. This is kind of the final polishing with sandpaper anyway, of 2000 grit. Wow. It's hardly even removing any glass, it's so smooth. Rocking it around. I can see if I can get a nice finish on this. And it's gorgeous, man. It is gorgeous. And now I'm going to try something completely different. Okay, I've got this chemical that I like to use. Alright, this stuff is called GP Pro Glass Polishing Compound. So it's made to polish glass. And what I'm going to do, I'm not sure if this will work at all, but I'm going to put a little bit of this on this rubber polishing block. I know I can remove it later, but I'm not sure if this will actually work. So just put a blob of that on the polishing block. Close that down. I don't want that to dry out. And then I'm going to rub it around. I'm going to put a glove on here because I don't want to get this stuff on my hands, because if it removes glass, it probably removes fingers as well. So a rubber glove here that I had before, and I got to do the Bugs Bunny here. Let's see who's got the biggest hand. Poker game, Bugs Bunny. You guys remember? New people, young people, anybody under 33 won't remember Bugs Bunny. Anyway. I'm going to put a little bit of this on the block here, and I'm going to see whether this makes a difference. Right, and see how that works. That's polishing compound on a rubber block. This is an experiment, folks. Wow, that's interesting. Not sure if that worked at all, but maybe clean that up with a rag here and see what it looks like. I definitely don't want to catch my finger in the middle here. That's nasty. That would be nasty. It's looking pretty good, actually. I'm just going to measure and see. I'm pretty safe over here, actually, if I don't. That's cleaning it up nicely. I can see a little mark right there. Let me see what that looks like. This is glass polishing compound. I think this stuff cuts through anything. I think it is. I think I'm done. Just working the edge a little bit there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this polishing compound here on the cloth to see if I can make a difference. Just get it off of the block here for a second and see if this makes a difference at all. You really got to pay attention here, because if you move your finger in the wrong place, goodbye finger. The lathe will chop it right off. That looks pretty good. Not sure if I can do any more with this. Let me just take that off. I think I'll do one more scoop of this stuff. See if this is this actually works well on plastic as well. So I got a good scoop there, and maybe too much, but we'll just put that on there and see what happens. There we go. It's on there nicely. Probably spray it all over my face here. I think I may have to remove some of this stuff too. So just spread it out, let it dry for a second. I think when you dry it, it also works quite well. Put a little pressure on it. You can use this stuff for your headlights as well. It's good for headlights. I'm not sure where I found out about this stuff, but it's pretty good stuff. I don't want it to fly off the wheel too much because it's going to make a mess. So I'm seeing little pieces of it fly there. So. Oh, there another piece hit me. There's another piece. And another piece. You see where all these loose pieces are. There, one hit me in the glove there. One hit my t-shirt. What a mess. What a mess. Oh well, just proves I'm working. It's Christmas vacation time right now, so this is a good thing to do during the Christmas vacation. Polish that watch crystal, baby. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Zoom in a little bit here to give you a look. Hopefully it still stays relatively focused. You can see me lose my finger. So I'm going up here so I can see what I'm doing. I really don't have to run it that fast with this polish. Probably shouldn't even run it fast with this stuff. Put a little pressure on it with my finger. There we go. That's not too bad. See what that looks like here. It's looking pretty good. I just want to get rid of some of the polish on the edge here. Just got to clean this up a bit. I think this cloth is going to get fairly dirty. But there, clean the polish around the edge here, and then I can focus on giving it a nice final polish here in the center. I think that's it, folks. I think that is it. It's almost cleanup time. So that is one nice looking crystal now. So let's put that back on the watch and see what that looks like. I'm going to take it off out of the chuck here for a sec. I'm going to chuck the chuck. So I got to get rid of some marks here. I can see that I need to get in there and clean those up. Looks pretty good. There's still some Mariana's trenches going on here, but I think I would have to remove way too much material to get rid of those completely. And I don't want to do that. So I think that looks pretty good. Get on the inside of this thing a bit. And what I want to do then is, that's not too bad. See that? That's a nicely polished crystal. It's better than it was before, that's for sure. So when I install this back on the watch, and let's just put that back on here. I need to polish this watch up a bit. There's a little bit of scuffing going on here, but so there it is. That's the polished crystal back on the Omega watch, and if you look at that closely, you really can't see any scratches. The white background actually helps with the watch, by the way, so if you got some scratches that are surface or deep, I have some deep scratches on this crystal, but this has done pretty much what I wanted it to do. I think I'd have to remove way too much glass to get it done completely polished, so I can't say this is perfect, but even looking at it sideways, it just doesn't, it looks like there's no scratches. When I look at it sideways like this, I can't really see any scratches. So that's it. So that's the that is the video on how to polish a watch crystal. So the big thing here is I was able to use my chuck, and like I said, I turned the jaws around the other way so it could hold that crystal in place. Then I started with the lower end sandpaper and got myself down to P2000. If I spent another 20 minutes at 400 grit, maybe even 200 grit, I probably could have got more crystal or more glass off this crystal, but why do that, right? You just want it to look really good, and when I look at that, I don't see any imperfections now. So it's done its job. So that's the video today, so let me summarize here in a second. So today we polished a glass watch crystal from a size 18 pocket watch. Instead of using the brute force method of polishing on a piece of sandpaper by going back and forth and back and forth, I chucked it up on my lathe. It was in a Sureline 3-jaw chuck, which held it really well. And then I used progressively higher grades of sandpaper, starting at 400 and working my way to 2000. And at the very end, I used this polishing compound called GP Pro. This stuff works exceptionally well. It's a great polishing compound. And I used that with a cloth. I tried using it on a rubber block, but actually it worked really well on a cloth. And that's meant for polishing glass. So here's the end result on this very beautiful size 18 pocket watch. This obviously did a great job. As you can see, you can't really see any scratches on this crystal anymore. I think that the Mariana's trench is still there, but you can't see it, so that's what's important. Again, I finished it off with the GP Pro, which is excellent for doing that. W.L. Whalen, Sault Ste. Marie, Canada, and this watch has obviously had a few repairs, but look at that crystal. That turned out very nice. You enjoyed the video, and please subscribe to my channel and share it, and I'll keep making videos on how to repair pocket watches, and please comment on the watch repair, and if you've got any tips for me, I'll take them all. There's a couple of folks out there that are very experienced professional Swiss trained watchmakers out there. I'm a hobbyist. I do this for fun. I don't do it for a living, but I truly enjoy the work. So stay in touch and have fun watching my videos.